and his stepmom as well.
Stepmom,
that was really special.
They forgive you, Ed. Don't worry. We covered all the bases.
When I was at Oliver's offices going through his files for this book, none of them classified, so don't worry. I heard the two of you rehearsing. Right. I heard the two of you rehearsing an argument, one of the arguments in the movie. I didn't know you were in the office. All I knew was two people were having an argument that was so unbelievably emotional and loud that it was making the walls rattle 20 feet away. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of being an actor and being inside a scene of that kind of extreme emotion? What does it physically feel like? And do you leave it on the set after you go home at the end of the day?
Well, I think it depends on the scenario and the movie that you're doing. And most of the time I am the kind of actor who does leave it the second that the cameras stop rolling. If it's a really deeply emotional scene, sometimes it takes a while to sort of get your whereabouts back. But again, it's sort of dependent on the scenario. The scene that we did where Ed and Lindsay were fighting in Japan, I remember being really excited to do that scene in a way, because as an actor, I always find really dramatic, emotional scenes a challenge, but I find that challenge really like an opportunity to exercise the level of anger that you don't necessarily always elicit on a daily basis. Especially if you're going into something and you're not building. That scene was singular in the sense that it didn't start off, it started off charged, and then you had to build. And I find those, I don't know what your experience is like, but I always find those really fun in a way to do, because they are challenging to get yourself into that emotional state naturally and truthfully.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean by fun, in that it's I love
like,
acting.
Fun.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel fun at the time exactly.
Yeah.
But it's tiring, because also when you have a fight like that in real life, it lasts for as long as it lasts. But when you're shooting a scene where you're fighting like that, you're fighting like that for 12 hours. And
right.
And that's one of the biggest challenges, is how to keep bringing it back. And like, okay, we got it. Now they're going to shoot it from 4 more angles.
Yeah.
And but that's movie acting. It's different than theater acting, and it's a challenge. But it's also, there's something, I love it.
Ed, are you able to watch a scene like that and not kind of halfway cover your eyes?
I mean, what do you say to how does any human respond to a scene that shows you basically as the world's worst boyfriend? I mean, there's really not much more to say than that. But those things happen in every relationship. I think everybody struggles, particularly when you're in tense situations. When you're far from home, you're in a place where you don't speak the language. A lot of times you only have each other. But at the end of the day, I'd say it's not entirely unfair. Because I like to think I was a little bit better than that for most of the quiet periods. But there was real tension, and there was a real strain. There was a real cost on the relationship to holding secrets, things that you couldn't tell each other. And it really is true that I didn't tell her. She didn't know. When she saw the same report everyone else saw in June 2013 that said, NSA leaker revealed, that was the first she had heard about it. The fact that she actually said she understood and forgave me and then came to be with me is something I'll never be able to pay back. She is far, far stronger than I am.
I wanted to follow up on that with a question for you and for Oliver, and I'd like you, Ed, to answer first. What sort of a person did you expect to meet when Oliver Stone walked into the room? And what sort of person did you actually meet? And Oliver, I'd like you to answer the same question when Ed is done.
You know, I've never been much of a Hollywood type. I'm not really a film guy. I'm sort of a shut-in computer type, a little bit of an indoor cat. So I can tell you every, ridiculous meme on the internet, but I've never actually watched Doctor Strangelove, which people still criticize me for. So Oliver had a little bit of a blank slate. I knew his reputation, but he had room to work. And the thing that struck me about Oliver is how consumed he is by a project. He never stops thinking, even when he's having a conversation with you about a particular point, or how he sees something in his head, or how he conceptualizes something. He doesn't always make eye contact because he's lost in his mind in this pursuit of a vision that's honestly, it's a little bit infectious.
Oliver, what were your impressions of Ed? What about him surprised
I think he was
you?
wary. I think he was, and I was wary of the project too. It's not, movies should not chase the news. It's true that things change quickly. It's not a wise choice, so I think it took some doing, some sense that, first of all, would he really be cooperative? Would he really tell us anything? That's a big factor. He was scared of it a bit. I think at some point he realized that a movie was going to get made on his life by a television show, or that he'd be the villain. And so I don't know his thinking in that. But over a period of 4 months, from January to June, we made an agreement to go ahead on a realistic basis. And that was when I think it became gradual trust. He was what he was, and I think Ed has been very honest from the beginning. He hasn't changed that much, except maybe a little more relaxed now. But still, he presented who he was to the world, very articulate, very resolute young man at 29 years old to do what he did. To me, I never would have had that kind of consciousness to do it. My only other example of it would have been Ron Kovic, who was paralyzed in Vietnam, who came back from that war and felt very strongly about it and put his life on the line. But this is a rare instance. Young people don't tend to do that. They tend to think along with the group.
Right. For Shailene and Joe, what is your relationship to Oliver Stone's films? Were you familiar with him? How